Hello and welcome to the Press Rewind Prince Lyrics podcast. I'm your host Jason Brenninger. This is episode number 8 for the song So Blue, which is the second to last track on Prince's debut album For You. So Blue is an interesting song as it was chosen by Warner Brothers to accompany Prince's debut single, Soft and Wet. So if you were a Prince fan, or at least a fan of Soft and Wet back in 1978, this could have been the second Prince song that you would have ever heard. Flip over the B-side of the 45 and you've got this track. So Blue is kind of one of those pensive, introspective ballads, lovelorn, definitely lovelorn, as the title may indicate. This is a song where Prince definitely has his woe is me hat on. He's been left by a woman, and that's what he's essentially singing about, is how blue he is from the loss of his woman, or as we are led to believe or to assume at this point. And I think that one thing I wanted to mention before I get into the lyrics is that the song is called So Blue. It has, it starts off with a very interesting guitar riff, then as soon as that's over, it then slows down a bit and gets into the music that and accompanying the lyrics for the remainder of the song. And along with Crazy You off of side 1, these two songs give the listener the most singer-songwriter approach to recording that Prince has taken on this debut album. It's usually looked at, For You is often looked at as a disco record or a dance record, and that is true for the most part, but they're ballads, and while a ballad like Baby has its roots more in the traditional soul and R&B genre, songs like Crazy You and So Blue seem to reach back into more folksier genres for Prince's songwriting and recording approach. And as it's become well known, and it wasn't at the time because Prince wasn't famous, but as it became more well known, one of his early influences was the singer-songwriter Joni Mitchell. And while I'm not going to make any comparisons because I admittedly am not a student of Joni's music. I know a few of her songs and I've heard a few of her albums, but I don't have the breadth of knowledge of her music to really kind of dive that deep. But of course I do know that one of her most famous albums is titled Blue, and a song that just happens to sound like it could have fit in with that style of music that she was recording in the 70s is titled So Blue. So I don't know if Prince did that consciously or subconsciously, but either way I wanted to bring it up. I thought it was interesting. So Blue, as I mentioned, starts off with a guitar riff and then slows down into the main guitar strumming that accompanies the lyrics. And So Blue is one of those songs that really doesn't have a chorus. There's no chorus to speak of whatsoever. Even though it is a 4-minute and 30-second long song, the amount of lyrics the song contains is relatively brief, and there is no chorus, so it doesn't typically follow the verse, chorus, verse, bridge, chorus structure that is very common in pop music. It's just line after line after line of lyrics that Prince gets into to kind of tell the story of his love lost and how it has basically affected his mood and his outlook on life in general. One of the reasons why the song is as lengthy as it is, considering the lack of lyrics, has nothing really to do with extended instrumentals or extended guitar solos. There isn't any of that. With the exception of the very beginning of the song, the vast majority of this track is Prince singing over his guitar strumming. But the reason why it lasts so long is He sings it very slowly. He sings each line very slowly and deliberately. Takes pauses in between even a single line. Like he won't even sing a line without taking a pause oftentimes. And another thing that he does while singing the lyrics to the song is he will drag out syllables. Really use his vocal techniques to drag out syllables, to make them not just longer, but to kind of punctuate what he's trying to say with that line. And also it sounds good. I mean, let's just be honest. He has that ability to take his register up and down, anywhere on the vocal scale. And so I think that because he can do that, he doesn't have to sing a line just straight in a way that some lesser accomplished singers might have to do. So he takes liberties with the lyrics, and he runs with them. Taking a look at the lyrics themselves, it starts off with, "I had everything I needed, but now my life is so blue. You meant the world to me, but now you're gone, and I'm so blue." So he mentions so blue a couple times in the first handful of lines. So he had someone in his life that he really cared about deeply. That person left him. We don't know if that person passed away or if it was just, the relationship he was in ended. It's not clear. They meant the world to him, and now he's blue. He's depressed. "Even though the sun is shining, I spend my day crying over you. Oh yeah, I spend my day crying over you. I feel just like the sky, oh so blue." So he's just keeps reiterating how distraught, how upset he is over this loss that he's feeling, this deep loss. And which, once again, that's why it can really work on a couple different levels, a number of levels really, more than a couple, because he never really gets specific. I mean, in the next couple lines, he refers to baby, but that's not really explaining what he's talking about. It's implied probably through those lines that he's referring to the loss of a relationship, like a romantic relationship. As he says, "Oh baby, don't you know, baby, don't you know, I spend my nights, it's all alone, talking to myself, I am so blue." So that is now the fourth time he's said "so blue" within the only verse of the song. Essentially just saying, his days are spent crying, his nights are so lonely, talking to himself. Doesn't matter if the sun is shining, doesn't matter if day or night. He's depressed, he's sad, he's literally crying, talking to himself. The guy is pretty messed up over this relationship. And the remaining lyrics, "And every day the feeling gets stronger, and who's to say just how much longer I can spend my nights all alone, talking to myself and just crying over you. I guess I'll just spend my life so blue." So a little melodramatic, if he's implying that through those last few lines that he's never going to get over this loss. This relationship was so important to him and was so meaningful that this loss is going to stay with him for the rest of his life. Because he does say that. Every day the feeling gets stronger. So in most instances in these types of situations, you break up with somebody that you care deeply about, that you were in love with. It ends. Supposedly each passing day makes it easier to get over that person. That's the idea. But he's saying the opposite's happening. Every day the feeling gets stronger. And who's to say just how much longer? So he doesn't have any hope that it's going to get better based on what he's experiencing thus far. So he's saying, how much longer? Is it just going to keep getting worse and worse? And he could spend my nights all alone talking to myself, which he kind of repeats that from an earlier line, crying over you. And so then, as I mentioned, the last line is, "I guess I'll just spend my life so blue." very emo of Prince. This is a very emo song before that was a thing. So, yeah, he's sad. So Blue is often overlooked on this album. It's not considered one of the stronger tracks by most. I personally like it. The opening guitar riff grabbed me the first time I heard it, and it's just a different sound than what we had been hearing up to this point, especially the last three tracks that lead up to the song, Just As Long As We're Together, Baby, and My Love Is Forever. And then jumping into this one, it's like, whoa, okay, this is a very different sounding song than those three. And maybe the lyrics don't tell a very compelling story. And I think that's, well, a song like Baby, which, as I mentioned in episode 6, is probably one of the least interesting, from a music standpoint, Baby is probably one of the least interesting songs on the album, in my opinion. However, So Blue often gets tagged with that moniker as well, and the lyrics don't do it any favors in making it a memorable song for people. It just kind of passes by. It's 4.5 minutes of Prince strumming the guitar in a very similar manner, and then the lyrics are very mopey, and he just comes across as like this sad sack depressive. And so it coming from My Love Is Forever, which is the track right before it, and then with the track that's coming after it, the final song on For You, I'm Yours, which I'll get to in the next episode, which is just really in your face guitar rock, explosive. It's easy to see why this song is often missed and forgotten about. So I don't fault people for doing that. I like it, but then again, I like this album quite a bit. So I think at this point I will wrap up this episode and move on to the final track on For You, which will be my next episode. As I've mentioned in previous episodes, the easiest way to get a hold of me if you had any comments or just wanted to throw an idea at me about how you've interpreted any of the lyrics that I've covered so far, or ones that you know I'm coming up to since I'm going chronologically, the pressrewind.net blog is the best way and easiest way to get a hold of me. But I do have social media presence elsewhere. I'm on Twitter, and I also have a Facebook page, Press Rewind, a Prince Lyrics podcast. You can search for me on Facebook. I'm also on Instagram as well, Press Rewind, a Prince Lyrics podcast. I think so this has been Press Rewind, a Prince Lyrics podcast, episode number 8, So Blue. I've been your host, Jason Brenninger, and thanks again for listening. Until next time.